Maybe we should just bring in that towards the end of this talk, like now, Lynne Kitei. You know her work from the Phoenix Lights.
Yes.
And maybe if you want to bring her in, so we can. Do you have anything else you wanted to say? But I wanted you to be here for a little bit with Lynne, because she, a regular, I think she was a family doctor, you know, just in the world, didn't really think about UFOs much until 1997 when the Phoenix Lights occurred. And before that, where like, boom, you know, suddenly the whole city of Phoenix was taken unaware by this flying object. So
not only that, but you had the governor of the states later confess
mm-hmm.
that he overreacted. He poo-pooed something that was scientifically validated.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew one of the scientists in Village Labs in Phoenix that did all of the planar examination and image enhancement of the so-called V-shaped craft that came over Phoenix itself, and confessed that this was something far beyond human technology that he was aware of.
Right. So let me ask Lynne, but hang out a little bit if you don't mind, Kathleen.
No, that's fine.
Lynne, thanks for being here. I just sort of introduced you as a doctor who just had a life-changing moment when you became aware of the Phoenix Lights. And so tell us what that process from a kind of, I guess we call an ordinary, regular person, someone like, boom, taken down the rabbit hole. What was that shift within your consciousness?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with both of you. And Neil, thank you. Because listening today, especially to Grant, and I'll get back to some Grant Cameron, and I'll get back to some of the things he said, and Rebecca, and of course you, Kathleen, just hit on so many things. That the Phoenix Lights mass sighting, if anybody doesn't know out there, is the most witnessed, most documented, most important mass anomalous aerial sighting in modern times, if not all times, and serendipitously, I guess, and I don't believe in coincidence anymore, I happen to be right on top of it. We're going to bring in near-death experience and consciousness, but for me, I'm very busy with actually, ironically, devoting my life's work to the dissemination of vital health issues, particularly in schools, internationally, on NBC and USA Cable. And then this fell in my lap. And again, literally and figuratively, 2 years before the mass sighting, which as we talked about earlier, and also Kathleen mentioned, when you have an experience that is so mind-boggling, that is so out of our reality cube, and of course everybody brings a different background, different upbringing, different belief system to this. Well, I'm a healthy skeptic. I've got to see it to believe it. And 2 years before the mass sighting, which we'll get to in a second, both my husband, who's also a physician and a healthy skeptic, and I had a very close sighting. And we're talking right outside our bedroom window. We live pretty high on a mountain in Paradise Valley, Arizona, and have a panoramic view of this city skyline. So we know what helicopters and streetlights and the car lights and the airport is in our view look like. And this was very, very different. In fact, Grant mentioned earlier about these orbs, and that's what we were looking at. They were actually oval shaped. It blew me away when the Nimitz sighting came forward with the Navy pilots describing these objects as oval shaped, which is what they were. There were 3 distinct oval shapes in a pyramid formation, one on top and 2 closely aligned, a little below us. We're pretty high on the mountain, and if anyone is near a computer and wants to go to the Phoenix Lights Network website photo page, you'll see the topography, and it was a little below us. And he called me to one of our windows of our bedroom. One wall is a window, so anything that pops up out there we usually see if we're nearby. And he calls me to the window, and here I'm looking at these 3 orbs that are so unusual that I just tried to take everything in mentally. I'm sure Kathleen has heard this over and over again. You don't want to move. You're in awe because you don't know how long it's going to last. And I'm sure there's others out there that had similar experiences. And I try to take in the size, the shape, the color. They were about 3 to 6 feet each, depending on how close they were. They were absolutely oval shape. I always describe them as an egg on its side, but then when the Navy pilots were describing them as like a lozenge, I mean, that's the kind of shape they were, or a tic-tac shape. And the color within each orb was a uniform amber color throughout. It didn't glare at all. It was very different than any other light out there glared. And it was just so mesmerizing and so amazing. I thought, if I don't get a picture of this, no one's going to believe it. And I go running to my closet, and I couldn't be with you right now, Alan, if I didn't grab my camera, ran to the window, and my husband calls me back and says, one of them is disappearing. And this gets back to Grant's description. The top orb, without budging, started to slowly, mechanically, as if there was an intelligence behind it, to shrink, slow switch, until it was a pea size. He mentioned that, which blew me away when he happened to mention that, because that's just what it was like. And then after it disappeared, it felt like it was still there. Even though we didn't see it, I jumped out on the balcony, got a picture of the two lower orbs. And I always go back to this sighting, because it's intently, as I was watching these two lower orbs, and I did not share this with the soul until 2 years later after the mass sighting, it felt like something was watching me. And going through my mind, I was thinking, who are you? What are you?
Let me just get Kathleen's comment on that. Lynn, let me just get Kathleen's comment on, you know, how there's sometimes a preparation for kind of being sucked down the rabbit hole, right? I mean, at 14, you overheard your mother talking to Betty Hill, so you've been prepared. But talk about that a little bit, and also the connection to near-death experiences, Kathleen, and then anything else you want to say, finishing up, and then we'll go more into Lynn's story. But yes, okay. Yes.
Okay. Well, the changes that do take place as a result of contact are that we tend to become more psychic than we were, or more intuitive. We see orbs in our homes, oftentimes orbs that appear to have intelligence, that do not appear to be related to ball lightning or orbs that come out of a volcano or anything like that. They appear to have intelligence. There's one case that I investigated where the man was able to capture video of this orb coming in, entering his body, and had medical records that his cancer was cured as a result of this. So that's a wonderful thing. A lot of people are being healed. And of course, I had already mentioned an increase in spirituality, an increase in being empathic. There are many other things that we discovered, but I don't want to take away from Lynn's time.
Well, you'll be back on the panel later at 5:20. We'll go into some of that. Okay. Any final words about your research as far as NDEs and experience?
Oh, well, no, not right now.
All right, we'll get into that later, because I think the panel discussion will be going from hardware to software and the awakening of consciousness. So thank you. How can people get in contact with you, Kathleen?
Kathleen with a K dash or hyphen Marden, MARDEN.com.
Thanks so much for joining us for this little
pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Great to see you, Kathleen.
Nice to see you too.
So Lynn, you're part of the huge transformation that's happening, like Kathleen's been a part of, and so many people. How did your life go from ordinary sort of doctor to, oh my God, there's something else going on here?
Well, it wasn't an easy transformation, I have to admit, because after I captured pictures, and again, you can go on Phoenix Lights Network website photo page to look at my unique collection of 35 millimeter. They're in the negative. They cannot be explained or denied by military and university optical experts. But it took me a long time, because 2 years later, which was amazing, after knowing what the technology is right out our bedroom window, I had no idea what we were looking at your video of 2 months before the mass sighting and during the mass sighting appeared in January. And I happened to catch a mile-wide formation of these orbs in formation head on, turning into a V at a distance. And it was so unnerving that the next morning I called around, found air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport who saw the same thing at the same time. You can look at, and the second picture of which is amazing, because that's exactly what thousands of people would describe 2 months later on March 13th, 1997, when 10 to 20,000 people saw what I had been documenting head on, turning into a V. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Also, again, captured on March 13th, I had no idea that thousands of other people saw what I had been documenting, and confirmed by air traffic controllers, not only in January, but the morning after the mass sighting, is appearing over Class B restricted airspace. They had no idea. They ruled it every sensible explanation, from conventional aircraft to flares. And I kept on documenting these things up until March 13th, and then found out shortly thereafter that thousands of people saw what I had been seeing, and that this was happening worldwide. I had no idea of any of this.
Dr. Hertog has a comment here.
Yes, I remember that event because one of my colleagues, Jim Dilatoso, who was one of the top software experts at Village Labs in Phoenix, was able to get sizable portions of films made of the V-shaped vehicle. And his conclusion was, this is unquestionably a technology from a very advanced civilization.
Well, I'll talk about that, because what really got me once I started learning about it, and after I learned thousands of people had seen what I had been seeing, I pushed my whole medical career, very accomplished medical career, aside for 7 years, and kept an intricate journal every single day of media, of witness testimony, of even talking to 35 millimeter, which could not be denied or explained, analyzed, and meeting Jim Dilatoso actually 3 weeks later. And I couldn't be here today if I didn't have the photographic evidence. And I've tried to be very scientific, not only in the evidence, but in the nuts and bolts, because there's much more important stuff with consciousness I'll get to in a second. But once I learned the enormity of the advanced technology of what thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people saw on March 13th, 1997, just briefly, not only were these 1 mile, and we learned a couple years ago from Peter Davenport, director of the UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, that one of the objects, and we're talking about these orbs that seem to be attached to something, which the air traffic controllers shared with me, or actual craft. And if you go on the Phoenix Lights Network website, look on the GAP page, GAP, Geospatial Animation Project, there's 10 different craft. After a 12-year study of 2 or more people had to see the same craft, was 8 miles wide. So 1 to 8 miles, and there's so much
Right on. What you're saying is so important. What you're saying is very important. In fact, I talked to airline pilots who said in Mexico, they have filmed craft that were more than 50 miles long.
Well, that's the thing that got me, JJ, because not only were there different craft, now whether it was one craft that could morph, or the perspective from where the person was standing, or a parade. And ultimately, after 12 years of meticulous study of the data, that was what was concluded from the investigators, including Jim Dilatoso and Michael Tanner and a host of others, that there was a parade because, and again, there was so much mis and disinformation. That's why ultimately, after 7 years, I had to come forward, because number one, there was so much more to this sighting than people know. It was over a 7 o'clock hour for some hours in California, 11 o'clock hour in Nevada, and continued all the way until 5:30 the next morning. The last report that was given to me personally from a Boeing crewman was that his whole crew was coming into Sky Harbor International Airport, and one of these mile-wide craft was over him. And a little aside is that when I talked to the air traffic controllers the day after they said that pilots had called into the tower, one of those pilots just came forward a couple years ago. It was actor Kurt Russell, which is really very interesting. We have his UK interview on the website, Phoenix Lights Network website. But anyway, the technology itself was so incredible. These massive formations or craft then would take off at blink speed without even dispersing the air. And if you go on the GAP page, you'll see that one of the craft split in two and then shot straight up. Other people saw these orbs
You
that detached from the main object, the environment, and then leave them a little bit later.
And your psychological and technological overview is very well put together. I want to congratulate you for your great work. I'm looking forward to meeting you and sharing with you some of my work that I've done in other countries.
But tell us though.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna get to that.
Okay, good, because I want to know how your thinking changed. It maybe took 7 years.
Okay.
But
Okay.
like, were you traumatized? You had to work through it, and then how are you different now because of that huge experience?
We will get to that because there's a lot more, Alan, that I don't even know if you know.
Oh.
Because as a scientist, again, I tried to be as scientific as I could, JJ, with the data, okay? But then as a physician, okay, everybody comes from a different background, different upbringing. Everybody reacts differently. Some people can't deal with it. Some people don't want to deal with it, and that's okay. I was very open to it, although a healthy skeptic. I wanted to find a logical explanation and started really researching for one, which I have yet to find after 25 years, but also to let people know that they're not crazy. Even though most anomalies can be explained, only a small percentage cannot. But just because we don't have the technology yet, and the Nimitz Navy pilots even say this, to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't mean they're not real. We may just be looking on the AM dial for an FM frequency. So it's time we get this topic out in the open and address it and accept it and study it. And that's what I've been doing. The other part is to let people know it's important to share. Just what you were saying, Alan, as an experiencer, not only did I have that experience, but I'm going to get to another one in a minute, but I had this explained, and I knew that there were many others out there that were just as curious, and I have to say that there has not been not one report of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomena. Not one credible report. Can't speak to other things, but that is so important in all this. If anything, it was quite the opposite. People were in awe and wonder and just curious. In fact, I still have people telling me over 20 years later that they felt blessed to have had the experience. Now, for me, not only as an experiencer of the Phoenix Lights, but as an educator, I ultimately, after 7 years, felt compelled to, it was too important not to share. But the experiencer part, Alan, I'm gonna get to now, because not only were people in real time, changed in real time, that the movie Independence Day came out, it was real popular 6 months before the mass sighting. And when children first saw this giant V, this massive V coming towards them, we're so inundated, and we talk about this in the documentary, with threat, and harm by Hollywood, by the media, that of course they were jumping up and down, Independence Day. But as the phenomena came closer, a calmness came over everyone, a connectiveness to the phenomena, as I felt too, that changed them forever. The kids wanted to run after it in real time. In long term, people changed their eating habits. They wouldn't eat meat anymore. I've had people go into the peace movement, go into the environmental movement. Now, I also, and this is very poignant for our discussion here, had a number of witnesses who shared with me that they had had near-death experiences as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting. And that really hit me hard.
Well, that's something Kathleen is
I know.
researching. You should talk to her.
Well, wait a minute, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Because, and I talk about it in the book, okay? I let it all out there. Because I, too, had a near-death experience in 1956 at 8 years old.
What's the connection between UFOs and NDEs? I mean, Grant makes the connection.
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Yes.
I'm going to get to that because my own NDE won't have time today, and I hope people do pick up the book. It's a fast read.
What's the book called?
The Phoenix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone. It's in its 4th print. The ebook has colored pictures and live links so people can go and just explore. I got that 750-page journal down to 230 pages and have expanded it 4 times now. But I did meet 3 beings. I haven't talked about this, but I did meet 3 beings, tall, glowing beings above the earth when I had my near-death experience. I won't ruin it for the reader because that experience changed my life forever. And I was 8 years old, very naive. But the 3 things that I can share that may help people out there that have had similar experiences, and I'll get to the connection in a minute, is awareness, attitude, and appreciation. I came away with my eyes opened. Whenever anything came before me, and I was aware of it, I felt that there was a reason it was there. I didn't blow it off. I really tried to take it all in and figure out what it had to do with my own being, with my own consciousness, attitude. I do believe that there are positive and negative energies out there, and that's a whole nother
we appreciate your exuberance. Alan and I appreciate your exuberance because you are pushing the envelope towards the positive side of contact, which people need. They have to overcome the fear syndrome. I have to excuse myself because I have other guests coming to our studio right now, but keep up the good work. I want to see you in the near future if possible.
But thank you,
For
JJ.
sure, absolutely, JJ. It's a pleasure having you here.
Do you think you were prepared, Lynne?
Attitude, as he was just alluding to, is so important because we bring to us what we are. If we have positive, I'm sorry.
No,
Yes?
I'm just on a little delay here, but I'm just saying, was your NDE a preparation, you think, for your life's work?
Well, that's a good question. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Because attitude is so important because, again, there are positive and negative energies out there. I truly believe that. I've felt them. You know, when you have something happen and you're sad or you're angry, you know, it's your awareness of how you adapt and how you deal with that situation is really important, and how you treat others is really important. And that brings in the attitude as well. If you just feed into that negative attitude, that's going to feed it more and more. You're going to have more and more negative energies feeding on that. But if you just tell them to go away and just envelop them with love and light and really go to that positive place within your whole being, they dissipate. They're gone, and you actually bring positive energies. So the 3rd A is we okay?
Yeah, we're good. The room is
appreciation.
What does your work look like now as we move forward into this new time where I think there's more sightings worldwide, more people like you are coming out, and I think you're part of the preparation team for the planet, right?
Well, you know, appreciation is really important, and I so appreciate just being here with you today and having the opportunity. I didn't know what was going to happen. As a physician, coming forward was very precarious, and you asked me that earlier. I was working as chief clinical consultant at the Arizona Heart Institute Wellness and Imaging Center. Nobody knew what I was doing behind closed doors and paring down the book. When I came forward, I couldn't believe the doctors and the nurses that actually read it and were so appreciative of the work that went into it, and were sharing their stories. There are millions of people out there that had unexperienced. Other people had near-death experience that were reawakened by the mass sighting, like myself. Could there be a connection between all unexplained phenomena. And once I started looking, I started finding a plethora of information. Kenneth Ring was mentioned earlier. Also, John Mack was working on a book, very spiritual, not only in connection between unexplained phenomena, aerial phenomena, as well as out-of-body experience that have the mystical light associated with the experience. And not only is experience, I lay it out very simply in the book, very similar, but the after effect. I'm going to answer your question now.
Okay.
The after effect is mind-blowing. The enlightenment, the connectiveness to the universe and to the earth and to each other, that everyone, everything is connected, and the urgency to also share the information, which I felt personally myself. That's how it changed me. Once I started looking, and you don't have to have it, I started calling all unexplained phenomena an up, UP and up, because they are an up. They're so positive. They're so enriching to one's life if one lets them in. And all you have to do is open your mind and your heart. You don't have to have an up experience to have this experience. All you have to do is open up to it and learn about it. And actually, I've had many people tell me that my book has done that for them, which I had no idea would happen. In fact, if I may, there were many. Give me a couple minutes at the very end. I want to read something to you because there were a lot of paranormal experiences that happened.
You have about 10 minutes or something, but or more. But you know, in a way, I mean, your life had purpose as a doctor, of course, helping people. But you seem so on fire and so engaged.
Can you tell?
Yeah.
little passionate.
No, it's great. Every time I meet you, you're so exciting. You're such a great communicator. But has this given your life a renewed purpose, would you say?
Well, I had to make a decision. When I came forward with the book in 2004, I was inundated with filmmakers, and coming from my video and workbook curriculum background, I wanted to do a film. I was working at night and then on the weekends doing Barnes & Noble and Borders tours. I really didn't have the time. And then one filmmaker, Steve Lance, whose parents live here and his father's a doctor, we knew him, said, I'm coming with equipment in June, we're going to start doing it. And I said, whoa, I don't know if other people, because I stayed anonymous for 7 years. I don't know if other people who are now communicating with me on email would want to come forward, or the professors who could lose their grants at the universities. And I didn't have time. He said, I'm coming, you know, every single person I called, who came on later, said absolutely they would do it. That was the sign. And then I was asked to present at a school where they wouldn't stop clapping. And I realized, whoa, there is nothing in our history books about this topic. And children search for they thirst for this knowledge. And I thought, I've got to start filming. And before I knew it, I had to make a decision. And I did. And you know what that is. I pushed my whole medical career aside to come forward and get the data together. And as an educator, to educate people, as I had been doing on vital health issues, on this vital issue, that people just know the facts and they can decide for themselves. I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything that's happened to me. I'm just sharing the data and let people decide for themselves. So yes, it has changed my life. I am, you know, touring, and now of course with COVID, we've had to put a lid on that worldwide, and just trying to share the data and let people know they're not alone. And that's one thing people ask me all the time, Alan, about the Phoenix Lights mass sighting. What was that about? And to this day, we still don't have technology that even comes close to what we saw in 1997. And whoever did this not only wanted to be seen, but they also connected at a very soul level with the witnesses. They changed people's lives forever, including my own. And if I may, if we have a couple minutes here, I can't hear you.
We have some minutes. We have a couple of minutes. Why don't you read some of those things?
Okay, this is really important because one thing that Kathleen mentioned, and in the book I do get into witness testimony, and also on the share page on the Phoenix Lights Network website, if people want to read some of their very poignant, detailed, and that's, you know, we didn't get into the excuses and how the story unfolded, which is fascinating in and of itself.
Well, this was just a brief interview. This
This
was
is
just
really
to,
important. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this
I
was
got
to
you. I
just
got you. I
hit
got you.
all the ramifications of what contact is about, and you're such an important part, and Phoenix Lights are such an important part. So yes.
Well, I got you, Alan, because a month after the mass sighting, some incredible paranormal stuff happened that I think that your viewers would really enjoy reading about. And one of them was during the middle of the night when something happened, and thoughts that were so foreign to me, Alan. I mean, it was just something I would never, ever, ever think about.
Like what? Like what?
Unconsciousness. So I went downstairs in the dark at 3 o'clock in the morning. I picked up a pad in the dark, closed my eyes, and started writing off the page. And in fact, the investigators came the next morning, and I said, whoa, you know, I told them what happened. I said, I wrote something last night. I don't even remember what I wrote. Can I read it to you? And I'm
Yes, this is where this is the punchline here. The Phoenix Light, that's Lynne's book, Lynne Kitei, Dr. Lynne Kitei. Okay, we're ready. Okay, what did you write, Lynne? I think I lost. Did I lose you, Lynne?
You froze for a second.
She froze, or did I freeze? Oh, there.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Are we okay?
Yeah, you're
We're
back.
good?
I guess it was just a little delay before the big punchline here. What did you write?
I want to make sure people get the whole gist of it. You can hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. I don't know about other living creatures in this vast universe, but questions keep permeating my mind about the ones who are trying to get our attention now. What if these beings are as advanced spiritually as they are technologically? What if they want to share this beautiful and wondrous future with us? And what if they have already met our spirit world and know firsthand that the essence of who we are is pure? They may only be trying to help us recognize the positive spirit deep within and teach us to know ourselves for who we really are before we destroy our world. Each and every one of us is a powerful being with the strength and wisdom to deeply appreciate our earth and every living creature on it. It is time we view ourselves in a new light. This can begin by searching within ourselves to find goodness and love. So lies, hatred, abuse, violence, and fear. That is our destiny. But only if each one of us chooses to look within our own soul for the answers. They are. It isn't too late. Humankind knowledge, not be pulled down by our self-serving primal ignorance. It is so very important to look within yourself and to believe. Judge yourself each and every day. There will come a time when you will indeed judge every moment of your own life. The good things, the bad, the wrath, the kindness and the wrath that you and you alone have brought to other human beings, to other living things, to our earth. You will feel what it felt like to be on the receiving end. Near-death experiencers have told us time and time again that when we die, we go through a life review. God does not judge us, we judge ourselves. So maybe it's time we judge ourselves now. Think clearly about how we treat others, the energy and dedication we put into our relationships, especially our family, as well as our relationship to other living things we touch in this short but precious existence. So when our time does come, we won't have to endure pain and sadness, but rather we will be drenched in the ecstasy of our own love, in the magnificent light of love. And if each of us truly looks deep within, the positive energies emanating from the goodness each one of us possesses will be shared around the world. Then our beautiful journey to a new reality will have begun.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you.
Haven't changed a word.
Is that when, how many years after you saw the lights that you wrote that?
That was a month after the mass sighting. And again, during that month, there were a lot of paranormal, bizarre things that happened that convinced me that this was real.
And did that
And
just come through you
asked
like a
for
download?
guidance.
Did that come through you like a
I
download?
surrendered.
It was like a download to you, right?
Well,
It just
I get downloads all the time, Alan.
Did you ever talk to Simonton?
Oh yeah, this was automatic writing.
Oh, right. No, we have a question
The
from
interesting
JJ, and
thing
then we have to wrap. we
Linda,
have to-
did you ever talk to Governor Simonton about that experience or share that beautiful?
I tried. I've been trying since he came forward, and I have yet to meet him personally, but I'm very happy that he did come forward, because actually my coming forward helped his coming forward.
Well, he came forward in Washington at the disclosure conference, right?
Right. He had actually mocked the mass sighting, and again, the story unfolding itself is fascinating. But he had mocked the sighting the afternoon after a USA Today article, for the first time, this was 5 months later, opened our sighting to international scrutiny on June 18th, 1997. We were deluged by media overnight. We didn't have social media then, and it went viral. And they too, once they talked to the witnesses, were asking, my goodness, their descriptions are so detailed, so heartfelt. Why isn't there investigation? Why isn't there an explanation? And he called an unscheduled press conference for the next day, after nothing from the government or military for months, to bring out one of his aides in a giant alien head costume and made a mockery of it.
Right.
Which was really disconcerting.
No, I know.
All the witnesses that saw something that was
Right.
so extraordinary. But to say that he actually saw one of the craft, and it wasn't, not only wasn't it flares, which is the only explanation they ever come up with, which is ridiculous, because even if you go on the website, you'll see they tried to reenact it 3 years later, and it was a farce. It was a joke. It has never been reenacted to
He
this
finally
day.
came forward and had said that he saw it, and he says at I think it was the National Press Club, Stephen Greer, what I saw changed my world and shifted my reality. He was very dramatic and very serious about coming forward. And finally, the truth on that side was out. So to wrap it up, Lynn, what can we learn now from the Phoenix Lights, and what can we be prepared for in the future to come?
Well, at this point, I really urge people, if they can, and again, the ebook is terrific because it has color pictures and live links, really helps people. And I give 10 ways, by the way, to connect with these other intelligences. And I just want to interject real quick that native cultures, and I've really gotten a connection with them, I even speak with them, have been open to these intelligences for centuries.
Absolutely.
On March 13th, they were actually looking up at them on the Gila Bend River Indian Reservation, and shared with me that they've been seeing them for centuries. They welcome them. They believe these phenomena come to comfort them and give them knowledge and inspiration. And I've certainly been inspired to do what I'm doing. And that, once you open yourself up, your mind and your heart, to learn about these phenomena, they call them sky people, light beings. There is such another world out there. We could talk for hours, Alan. And again, I give 10 reasons how people can connect, and it's very, very simple. I connect with them every day. I don't hear voices. I just get very strong feelings, and I trust in the guidance.
So you're really a contact the experience.
I just decided if I'm supposed to do this.
This is your work, man. This is your work. This is your true work. I mean, John Mack's last book, Passport to the Cosmos, talked all about the indigenous connection to the sky people. So, what would you like?
Also, Alan,
Yes.
my very first presentation was a month before I came forward at the Tucson Medical Center with John Mack. I was a little wary because he was into abduction, but he shared with me afterwards. My data confirmed his data, okay? And not only that, but he was writing a book, because we discussed the whole thing about the connection between all unexplained phenomena. He was writing a book when he was unfortunately killed in a car accident, on this very topic, the connection between all unexplained phenomena and how they help each person that experiences an up.
Well, I got an essay. I got an unpublished essay from John Mack's estate to put in a book that's coming out that I put together called Making Contact. And it's really about the subtle realms and how his work went deeper than the ordinary psychological model to realize we are infinite beings. So any final words, Lynne, that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I hope people will take a peek at the website, the Lights Network website. It is packed with information, all kinds of fun things, and of course the book, The Phoenix Lights, The Skeptics Discover That We're Not Alone, as well as our documentary, which is won over a dozen international film festival awards. And I have to tell you, my biggest accomplishment, Alan, is because I've been working on curriculum for youth and for the community for over 40 years on vital health issues. I got together this book, The Phoenix Lights, this UFOs, crop circles, and coloring book, adventures, graphic novel adventures of Sue FO, Field Observer, and Hugh FO. He's this little alien. Worked with, it's for all ages, worked with a Disney illustrator, and we have not only the 10 different craft to color, we tell the story throughout. We have iconic UFO pictures from yesteryear. There's such a vast history of this. 80 crop circles and activities for young and old, from puzzles.
This is great. This is the kind of education we need. You should talk to Rebecca Hardcastle.
We have. I've been trying to get it into the classroom for 7 years, okay?
Well,
Finally got this together for everyone to use.